It began with a whisper, a crack in the sky, a piece of death that didn't burn up when it fell. The meteor hit in the silence before dawn, a sliver of obsidian, boiling at the edges, hissing steam as it punched through the canopy of Central Park and embedded itself beneath the soil. The blast went unnoticed by most, but one man saw it fall. Dr. Rotha, former Oscorp bio-researcher turned independent contractor, fired for ethics violations, hired again by a private firm that didn't ask so many questions. He stood above the crater at sunrise, breath fogging, Geiger counter hissing like a warning. "It's not just rock," he whispered. "It's organic." A black sheen crawled across the meteor's edge, glistening, moving, a twitch, almost like it breathed. But Rotha didn't run. He smiled. He reached out with a gloved hand. Peter Parker had stopped sleeping, not because of guilt, not because of nightmares, because he didn't need to anymore. The symbiote had changed everything. His strength, his reflexes, his body, even his dreams. Now when he closed his eyes, he saw darkness. Infinite breathing darkness. As if the suit remembered something he didn't. He perched atop a spire, black-suited, watching the world through enhanced vision, tuning in to the buzz of city traffic and distant sirens. Everything felt sharper now, like he could hear a heart murmur from across the burrow. But something itched at the edge of his senses. Something wrong. And it wasn't just him. He didn't know that beneath the city, Dr. Rotha's team was already dead. That the meteor had cracked open like a rotten egg. That inside wasn't just a symbiote, but something else. Something older. Something with teeth. The SWAT team never made it out. They'd gone down expecting a gas leak, reports of strange smells, hissing in the walls. When the first man vanished through a ceiling vent, they thought it was an ambush. When the second screamed, no one even found a body. Just a pile of melted armor and claw marks in concrete. The third man, Ramirez, made it halfway up the ladder before the black shape fell on him. All they saw were the hands, clawed, slick, dragging him into the dark. Security footage was grainy, blurry, but in the last frame, a face, white and shining. Not a man, not a mask, something born to hunt, something not of this world. Peter stood in front of the altar, sweating beneath the symbiote. His hands shook. The nightmares were getting worse. Not just dreams, visions, claws, eggs, something inside the suit twitching when it shouldn't. He looked up at the stained glass windows, at the cracked images of saints and angels. He didn't know what was happening, only that it was starting to whisper to him. The symbiote began to pulse. Something in the distance screamed. Not human, not even close. And Peter, for the first time in weeks, felt afraid. The scream echoed through Manhattan like a banshee torn from steel. Not a siren, not a monster. Something deeper, more primal. Something that spoke directly to instinct, bypassing the mind. Peter heard it before anyone else. He was already moving by the time police dispatch lit up, already in mid-swing through the slush-colored sky. The symbiote, tied to his skin, writhed at the sound, reacting not in fear, but recognition. "What are you?" Peter muttered beneath his breath. He didn't get an answer. The city had a new scent now, something beneath the smog, the hot dog carts, the gasoline, blood, and something older than blood. Broken glass, acid scorches on tile. Security doors melted clean through. The footage would later show it, a black shape streaking across the ceiling, crawling like a nightmare, tail slicing clean through a man's spine. Peter arrived too late. Bodies, some whole, some not. A half-melted containment unit. Blood trails into the walls, and on the far wall, a smear of viscous fluid glowing under fluorescent light. Not blood. something more caustic. Peter touched it. The symbiote hissed in response, "Shia." A violent jolt up his arm. He recoiled, heart pounding. What the hell did this? A noise. He turned. The hallway behind him, nothing. Then movement, fast, too fast, and from the shadows emerged a shape with no eyes, no mercy, all teeth. The first xenomorph leapt at him. The creature was pure predation, not like the criminals Peter fought, not like the supervillains. This thing didn't monologue, it didn't hesitate. It moved with bone-deep certainty, a perfect killer. Peter slammed it into a wall, webbed its claws, threw it through 2 corridors, but the acid blood ate through his webbing, burned his arm. The symbiote barely contained it. His enhanced strength helped. Reflexes saved him, but for every blow landed, he risked getting splashed by dissolving blood. And the symbiote, it started reacting. Not recoiling, responding. The black goo on his skin stirred. Like it knew this species. Like it hated it. The Xeno charged again. Peter vaulted upward, kicked it back, pinned it against a metal door, and blasted it with the emergency sprinkler system. It shrieked, the sound not pain, but fury, then slithered up the ceiling and vanished into the vents. Peter stood there dripping, shaking. The suit pulsed, not in exhaustion, but in hunger. Elsewhere. Harry Osborn's loft. Harry stared at the news report. Security breach, lab attack, 10 dead, some unidentifiable. He was only half listening. He kept seeing his father's face in the mirror. The Green Goblin's serum still burned in his veins. He had power and rage, but no direction, until now. He turned on the screen, rewound the footage, froze the frame. A black shape darting through firelight. "That's not Spider-Man," Harry whispered. Then a smirk. "But I bet he knows what it is." He pressed a button on his glider. "Let's say hello." Underground. Flint Marco. Sandman didn't want trouble. He only wanted to see his daughter. Stay clear. Stay low. But trouble didn't care. It found him in the subway. He heard the scream first, then the civilians running, then the thing that tore through the train. He tried to stop it, turned his arm into a hammer, slammed it across the creature's jaw. It staggered, but its claws cut through his sand like knives. When it bled, acid dripped through the platform. Marco shifted into a sandstorm, tried to suffocate it, trap it. It writhed, screeched, tore its way out. But part of it began to dissolve. Not from damage, from reaction. The sand clogged its gills, dried its inner membranes, disrupted its perfect biology. The Xeno fell, twitching, and collapsed into sludge. Flint stood over it, breathing hard, then looked at his hands. Guess I am good for something. Later, rooftops above the city. Peter, now out of costume, stood opposite Flint and Harry. An unholy trinity of ex-enemies staring down the impossible. "You're telling me," Harry said, "you fought a space bug. It bleeds acid. It's hunting me. It's not alone." "And you dissolved one?" Peter asked, looking at Flint. "It hated sand, choked on it, like I clogged its insides or something." Harry leaned forward, grinning. "Well then, I say we give it a mouthful." Peter's jaw clenched. "This doesn't make us friends." "No," Harry said, "but it might make us survivors." Above them, the clouds parted, a ripple of heat. And across the skyline, dozens of black shapes crawled up buildings, screeching, hunting. The invasion had begun. It started with silence, the kind that seeps into your bones, that presses on your eardrums like the world forgot how to breathe. Then the sirens came, but they weren't for crime. Not tonight. They were for something else. The invasion wasn't loud. It didn't explode in fireballs or tanks. It crept. The Xenomorphs took the sewers, the subways, the alleyways between lives. New York was still moving. People still caught trains, ordered hot dogs, and died screaming in shadows. Oscorp, level B5. The Queen was already building. Nestled in the ruins of an abandoned genetics lab, the hive pulsed. Half organic, half metal, its walls were webbed in calcified sinew. Bodies, half-eaten, folded open, hung from the ceiling like chandeliers of death. At the center, crouched in silence, the Queen Xenomorph. She was larger than any seen before, altered maybe by Earth's atmosphere, maybe by something worse. She wasn't looking for food. She was searching. There was another signal, another alien frequency, the symbiote. Peter's apartment, night. Peter hadn't slept in 36 hours. The symbiote was whispering again, louder now. It pulsed along his skin like second thoughts, like urges. It didn't want to fight the Xenomorphs. It wanted to merge with them. He looked in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot. His hands trembled. He saw Venom grinning back. "You can't stop them like this," the voice inside hissed. "You're holding us back. Let me be you." Peter slammed his fists into the sink. Porcelain cracked. He gasped, then tore the mask off his face. Mary Jane stood in the doorway, pale, shaken. "You're scaring me," she whispered. Peter couldn't answer, because he was scared too. Harry stood atop his glider, goggles over his eyes, scanning thermal signatures. Beside him, Flint stood like a statue of moving sand, shifting with the wind. They're nesting, south side. Whatever they are, they're smart. They're staying out of sight. "You sure you want to do this, Osborn?" Flint asked. Harry scoffed. "Yeah, well, they're not exactly human." Below them they saw one, crawling across a cargo crate, tall, black, slick, like oil and muscle. Flint leapt, Harry followed. The ambush was instant. 6 more Xenos dropped from the shadows. Flint exploded into a sandstorm, whipping across the docks, smashing claws and tails. The acid hissed through his arms, but not enough to stop him. Harry fired incendiary bombs. 2 direct hits lit up the night like fireworks. "That all you got?" he shouted. The Queen screamed, an echo in the distance. They weren't just hunting, they were coordinated, and the bell tolled once, then twice. Then a ripple of sound shattered every stained glass window. Eddie Brock stood beneath the altar, arms open. The symbiote surged from the shadows, slamming into him like a tidal wave. "We are Venom." But something was different. The symbiote pulsed with new DNA, mutated by its exposure to xeno acid, its texture more violent, hungrier. Eddie's eyes opened wide, no longer fully human. "Let's go eat some bugs." Meanwhile, in the hive, the Queen Xenomorph paused. Her claws flexed. The symbiote had returned, and now it was part of her. Peter, Flint, Harry, Venom. The 4 of them stood on the edge of Queens, overlooking the subway entrance to the nest. Peter's suit was different now, no longer full symbiote, but bonded just enough for strength, for control. Flint's body was lined with iron shavings, insulation from acid. Harry had retooled his bombs. Sonic pulses calibrated for biological disruption. And Eddie? He was smiling. "We walk in," Eddie said. "We kill the Queen, we burn the nest, done." "And if it's not enough?" Harry asked. Peter looked toward the city skyline. The sky flickered red. "Then we bury it, with us." They stepped into the dark, together. It was overcast that day in Queens, but it wasn't the weather. Black tendrils had laced across the sky like veins, crawling from the spire of Oscorp Tower, and webbing through the clouds like a cancer. Birds no longer flew over the skyline. Sirens had stopped. Streets were empty by dusk. They weren't calling him Spider-Man anymore. They were calling him Venom, but not like Eddie Brock, not like anything Peter had seen. This was Miles Morales, completely consumed, completely in control. The symbiote had evolved with him. It didn't speak in his head anymore. It spoke through him. He was the message now. A walking, pulsing broadcast of rage, guilt, and abandonment. Peter had tried everything. Sonic cannons, Lee's energy frequencies. Even the serum Connors had developed to purge unstable genetic bonds. None of it worked because Miles wanted this. Peter limped across the rooftops, broken web shooter on his left arm, fractured ribs bruising with every breath. MJ had begged him not to go alone, but he knew what this was. This was goodbye. He had tracked Miles to what was left of Vision's academy. The rooftop garden, Miles' old hiding spot. It was still there, vines crawling through the brick, snow on the steps, his old sketchbook damp and left open on the bench. Peter stepped forward and saw what was drawn. It wasn't a villain or a monster. It was a boy, standing between shadows, his father's silhouette behind him, and Spider-Man's mask in his hand. "You shouldn't have come alone." Miles' voice now carried everywhere, amplified through the biomass clinging to the walls. The whole school groaned with it. Peter turned. I had to. Miles dropped from the sky, black tendrils flexing. His body shimmered with red lightning. His eyes, Miles' eyes, were still in there, somewhere. "You still think I can be saved?" Peter nodded. "You were never the one who needed saving. I was." "Don't do that." "What?" "Blame yourself so you don't have to fight me." Peter's hands trembled. "I'm not going to fight you." "You don't have a choice." The first blow shattered the rooftop. Peter dodged, weaved, countered. Every move taught, practiced, echoed from years of fighting side by side. But Miles wasn't holding back. Venom tendrils ripped through the concrete, one slicing Peter's side. A venom blast flung him through the staircase. He barely landed before another tendril wrapped around his throat and slammed him into the wall. "You turned your back on me," Miles snarled. "You let this happen. You were my brother. Then why did you let me fall?" The tendrils coiled, crushed. Peter gasped. "Because I didn't know how to save you." Peter's vision blurred. He saw Aunt May. He saw Ben. He saw Miles. Young, bright-eyed, full of questions. He reached for the mask in his belt. The old one. Miles's first. "This was always yours." He held it out. The tendrils stopped. Miles's hand trembled, and for a moment, just 1 second, the symbiote loosened, but it wasn't enough. The tendrils snapped shut. Peter fell limp. The mask rolled across the floor, blood-smeared, half buried in dust. Miles stood over him, breathing heavy. Rain fell, lightning cracked. There was no sound in the city. Weeks passed. The sky over Manhattan cleared, because Miles wanted it that way. He rebuilt the skyline in his image, webbed spires, shadows watching. Crime dropped to zero, because people were too afraid to move. J. Jonah Jameson didn't dare speak. MJ went dark. Ganka disappeared. The Resistance, what few remained, gathered in safe houses, whispering rumors of a return, of another Spider-Man. But they all knew the city was no longer protected. It was ruled by him, by Venom,